Just when you thought the NBA offseason was crazy enough, Brett Siegel just released that Kevin Durant is no longer considered untouchable by the Houston Rockets, and that trade speculation is already popping up with the Pistons, who could be sitting there right at the front of the line if the Houston Rockets truly make him available. We got that, plus Rich Paul laying out the 10 possible destinations for LeBron James in the offseason while Minnesota is ramping up their pitch to try to land him. The Lakers also moved DeAndre Ayton. We got a lot to talk about on this 4th of July episode. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of the Full Court Podcast, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at the Full Court Podcast YT on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. So, one that completely surprised me and caught me off guard to drop today, which I did not expect Brett Siegel to drop this, is that the Houston Rockets could be moving Kevin Durant as soon as this offseason, which is wild enough in regard to. This one comes from Brett Siegel, who says this: whether or not the Houston Rockets look to continue their partnership with Durant is the big question at large, especially since they don't view him as an untouchable talent in trade talks on their roster. Houston viewed the opportunity to acquire Durant as a way to upgrade from Jalen Green and to bridge the gaps in their lineup to contend in the West, but by no means was this addition viewed as a long-term commitment. Many around the league are skeptical of the Rockets wanting to keep Durant through the end of this current contract running through the 27-28 season. It isn't a secret that anyone that there are tensions between Durant and the Rockets locker room last season after reports of an alleged burner account came to the light. Of frustrations were mounting internally about the team not taking a step forward with the former league MVP at the helm. If Durant becomes available in any capacity or the Rockets look at any possible trades involving him either now or in the near future, the Pistons are fully expected to be at the front of the line to bid for his services. He goes on to say this: two league sources with knowledge of the situation told Clutch Points that Pistons were set on figuring out a path to land Durant, but nothing ever materialized in this three-team idea, nor did anything appear possible in the brief discussions with only Houston. Perhaps the greatest detail to emerge from all of these rumors is that Durant has interest in playing alongside Pistons star Cade Cunningham, sources said. Okay, all right. Right now, Brett Siegel is posting this or presenting this as nearly speculation, right? And that the internal conversations that's been happening about KD having a possible burner account, I don't think that really surprises anyone, right? So let's talk about this, right? For those that are new to the channel, we talk about both sides of every argument. So I'll talk about side A, I'll flip it around, talk about side B. So try not to react until you hear all sides of the conversation, which I know is hard for many. But should the Rockets seriously be looking to consider moving Kevin Durant before his contract ends? Let's talk about the yes side of this, that the Houston Rockets should be open to it. KD is an elite player, right? And just because of that, it doesn't mean that it needs to be a long-term partnership. I do think that they could be at a crossroads where they have to decide on if we feel like we can win a championship with Kevin Durant, does that mean that we have to move off more of our young pieces, or is it easier to move Kevin Durant, get some other pieces back, and continue to develop with our young pieces? We've heard throughout the season, and even the last offseason, that there are two kind of warring minds within the Rockets organization. One set of between the ownership and some execs that want to continue the development process and the slow burn and be patient, and the other that feels, led by Ime Udoka, that feels like let's go after key veterans, let's add some stars and keep some of these young players, but let's cash in the chips on some of them so that we can truly be a contender now. Locker room tension is something that, and especially with a disappointing playoff exit, it does feel like there could be some real smoke to that, right? Houston has the young pieces and could pivot before being stuck in a very short championship window, and that pivot could mean moving off of Kevin Durant rather than moving off of your young pieces and shortening that window. But let's talk about the side that Houston should run it back, right? Durant still averaged elite numbers there, remains one of the most elite scorers in the NBA still, right? And I do think the Rockets traded for Kevin Durant to accelerate that contention and not necessarily panic after one season. Also losing Fred VanVleet, who is an important leader in that locker room, because Kevin Durant is not a leader, is something that you also have to look at. And they would not be wrong to say they want a healthy playoff run before they decide to completely change the situation that they have in Houston. Trading him too early could send the wrong message to the locker room and to the fan base for that matter, and could seem very much like a panic pivot after you just acquired him in the prior offseason. Now, with that said, I think you got to look at this as well. Locker room tension, playoff disappointment, a hungry team like Detroit that could be waiting in the wings to try to acquire Kevin Durant. Maybe it is time to strike now, which leads us to the next topic. KD to Detroit. Like, would this make sense? Would pairing Kevin Durant with Cade Cunningham make sense there? Let's talk about both sides of this. First one, should Detroit be pursuing Kevin Durant aggressively? Let's talk about the side yes to that. Cade plus KD, and especially if you're able to keep Jalen Duren, it gives you a real honest trio of players there, as well as having the supportive role players that make sense. Kevin Durant's shooting and scoring in the half court automatically raises the Pistons ceiling and helps solve one of the things that ailed the Pistons for their early playoff exit as well. And with Kevin Durant reportedly admiring Cade Cunningham's game, which I do think matters in a place like Kevin Durant trying to be happy in a place, that there you go there again, right? And we know that Detroit has been aggressive and they've been ready to cash in assets already if it means landing them a true star. But at the same token of that, on the flip side, the Detroit Pistons should be very careful in this one. Getting older and more expensive with Kevin Durant, it can make your timeline too accelerated to where if it fails, now you've given up too many assets that you could have used for something else. Also, to gut a growing roster could be very detrimental if it does not end up working out. And I think with this as well, with Duren's future already uncertain, adding Kevin Durant to that could make the situation even more complicated for what Detroit is trying to build there. So I think that Detroit's rise right now has been sustainable, and that's good. It has been sustainable. It has not been rushed at all, and their offseason moves have kind of kept that going in a lot of ways. But I do think this, if Detroit truly views adding Kevin Durant as the missing piece for the Detroit Pistons, especially with all the change in the Eastern Conference, to be a real championship contender, this is the type of move that you would want to make and be aggressive on if you really do view that. But I guess we'll see. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. This is a wild rumor as it stands right now. Let's still file this away as rumor, not reporting per se, even though Brett Siegel is saying that he heard it from several league execs. We're going to see what's going to happen in regards to that, and let's see. With that said, let's talk about LeBron James, talk about accelerating timelines. LeBron James, according to Rich Paul, LeBron James has about 10 teams that he could go to that they're looking at and that would make some sense for LeBron James in his pursuit that I'm still guessing that LeBron James still wants to be able to contend for a title right now. Like, that's the thing that would make a lot of sense in regards to that, right? And I think this, when it comes down to it, how would I say this? Is that LeBron James is a player that you can't overlook in what he's able to do. You just can't overlook that. And LeBron is still a player that definitely, you saw what he did in the playoffs. You put him in the right situation. It makes a lot of sense for LeBron, try to go to some of these teams that, especially if he's going to be taking the vet minimum anyway. We heard that in regards to that, LeBron doesn't view money as a really big factor right now. He wants to win. And if he wants to win, great, right? Like, what are you willing to do to sacrifice? That's always the thing that it comes down to all of this is what are you willing to do to sacrifice? So if LeBron James is narrowing this list down to 10 teams, then great. Cool. Like, at the end of the day, something has to shake in regards to this at some point in time, right? So with this, let's talk about the teams that have been listed here and that make some sense. Philly, Cleveland, Golden State have been reported as real threats that's there. With Philly having Embiid, Jaylen Brown, Maxey, and Edgecombe right now, they have a loaded team, and if you add LeBron to that, you can make some sense there. Of course, Cleveland has the emotional history, the front office familiarity, the ownership familiarity, and it would be a huge story around the NBA if LeBron goes back to Cleveland and maybe is able to get them a title before he leaves, before he finally retires. Golden State, we talked about it, the Steph and LeBron pairing and all that type of stuff. It's something that teams have dreamed about in regards to this one. I do think these teams offer either legacy, title upside, or both in some cases, right? But then I think in regards to this, that the field is reportedly wider than some are saying. Some are also teams that have been mentioned. Miami is a team that could be interesting, and he could return there with what they have going on with Giannis. Dallas has been mentioned as a team as well, which I don't really think that right now it makes sense because they are in the beginning of a rebuild, even though they have added some young pieces or some veteran pieces to that team. I just don't feel like that works. Denver with Jokic, the basketball fit makes a lot of sense there as well with what LeBron will be able to do in the off-court Jokic minutes, which has always been something that has hurt Denver in the past. Is once Jokic goes to the bench, the efficiency of that Denver team and offense overall drops some. And then Boston and New York, of course, prestigious teams as well. But I do think it could get weird fast. And like I said this over on Locked On NBA before too, going to the New York Knicks. And if for some reason the Knicks have a disappointment or early exit and LeBron goes there, they're going to blame it on LeBron. Like right or wrong, the media is going to try to blame it on LeBron. So this is the first time where it feels like a LeBron James decision feels less about proving something and more about choosing the right basketball destination. And there's a team that reportedly feels like they could be the right basketball destination, and that is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Reportedly, they are planning to ramp up their pursuit and efforts to sign LeBron James. This one comes from The Athletic that says the Minnesota Timberwolves have ramped up their efforts to sign LeBron James. The Wolves believe that they are in the running to land LeBron and are also the best situation for the 41-year-old. The Wolves are pitching James on the idea of teaming up with Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball, Jaden Ivey, and Rudy Gobert to help win Minnesota the first professional sports title since the Twins in 1991. The team is arguing that James winning a title with the Wolves, who have never won a championship, would solidify him as the greatest player of all time. Rich Paul did also mention the Wolves as a possible landing spot on the Game Over podcast for LeBron James. Let's talk about it. Is Minnesota a legit basketball fit? I think that pairing LeBron with Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball will give them some young elite, in the case of Anthony Edwards, talent. You look at LaMelo Ball's playmaking and the pace that he plays with. Also, LaMelo learning to play more off ball with the rise of Con Knippel last year. And then you have Rudy Gobert and Jaden McDaniels as the players that provide that defensive structure that LeBron would need so much so, right? And so I like the basketball fit there. I think it'll make a really good case for basketball. But I still think that the side, if you're talking about this, why this feels unlikely, is that Minnesota is not the typical lifestyle choice that LeBron has gone to. What one could say that Cleveland wouldn't be either, technically, with how he's been. And that, if he's going to go to a destination like that, maybe before an organization that he's already more familiar with, especially if it's not a warmer destination on top of that. The fit and the spacing this late in the career could present a problem as well. The pitch seems very strong. The emotional pull on saying, hey, let's bring a title to Minnesota may not be what they hope it's going to be, right? Would winning in Minnesota actually solidify the career of LeBron James, or will LeBron actually be giving Minnesota something more than what they have? That's the ultimate question here, and I guess we'll see, right? LeBron is going to make this decision based off basketball, and I do think just pure basketball, ignoring the destination, the cities, all that type of stuff, Minnesota has to have at least some type of interest on a pull from LeBron James, but I guess we'll see. Let me know what you guys think down below. Minnesota ramping up their efforts to try to land LeBron James. Does that make sense? Let me know that down below. Talk about LeBron's old team, the Lakers. They have now traded DeAndre Ayton in a move that lands them Jaden Ivey, 2 second-rounders as well to help refill some of the assets that they've moved off on as well. And, I think this was a smart move. We knew that DeAndre Ayton wasn't somebody that was really the Lakers really wanted to keep around. That's clear there, right? So now you end up moving him in a deal. And, I still have no idea. No, absolutely no idea what the hell the Wizards are doing here. You now have a front court of DeAndre Ayton, Anthony Davis, and with your point guard, Trae Young there. But hey, it is what it is, right? I think in regards to this, though, you just got to look at this and say this. DeAndre Ayton is an interesting player because he's going to end up being your journeyman. And DeAndre Ayton had so much potential coming into the league, but now the Lakers move him. They gain more flexibility to continue to add to the team. They've already completely revamped the team around Luka, which is there. I don't really think there's any risk for this for the Lakers. Like, yeah, you lose some size on the front court and stuff like this, but you've already kind of made moves that seems like you were already prepared for this. And that's the reality of it. I think that's just what you have to walk away from it. The Lakers were planning this. As soon as he opted into that contract, they were planning on how to move his ass, and they moved him. That's it, right? Last topic of the day before we get out of here. The Hornets yesterday also traded Dorian Finney-Smith in 3 seconds and moved him. Traded 4. The Hornets add Dorian Finney-Smith in 3 seconds, with the Rockets trading that as well. And I think this is a good move for Charlotte in the sense that you get to add 3 second-round picks. You're taking Dorian Finney-Smith as a contract that still has a few years left on it as well. There's some structure beyond the season, but it's non-guaranteed. And I think if DeAndre Ayton does bounce back as a shooter and a defender like Houston Rockets were hoping he was going to be, he could turn around and be flipped later, if not help this team right now, right? Now, if DFS does bounce back, would he struggle badly last season? If he bounces back, he could be a player that actually helps Charlotte continue to take that next step with the defense that he has here. But getting 3 second-round picks, that's the value. And I think the overarching thing that you can look at this and say, that whole thought process of taking on bad contracts and stacking first-round picks, that's done. This is the deal that you can kind of expect now, stacking second-round picks. That's about all you can expect here. At least that's my thought process behind it. But that's going to do it for today's episode. I want to hear from you guys. How do you feel about Kevin Durant possibly being traded and Detroit being at the front of the line? LeBron having 10 teams on his list. The Minnesota Timberwolves trying to ramp up their pursuit of him. Do you think they end up getting him? Let me know that down below. Make sure you guys like the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at the Full Court Podcast YT on every social media platform. Send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
Been a presentation of the Breaks Media.